Hello guys, and we are back again with another video. These are videos that will shift your perspective, that will flip your perspective, that will make you rethink everything. Let's just start.
China has no human rights. The United States has human rights. China has no human rights. So just imagine how much of an advantage it is to executing quickly and at scale when you don't have any kind of responsibility for human rights. The whole world is choosing sides. We're back to pre-World War II. Are people going to align themselves with the United States, or are people going to align themselves with China? We like to blame China for being communist, but China, what they stand on is pragmatism. We won't tell you how to dictate your country. We won't hold you accountable for your human rights. We won't hold you accountable for your corruption. If you want to trade with us, we'll trade with you. What does the United States do? No, folks, sorry. You have to be a democracy. You have to have free and fair elections, right? We force our ideology on everybody else. So the whole world is coming to this point now where they have to decide, do we want to bunkmate with a country that's going to force an ideology on us after we've seen how that ideology has failed multiple other countries, right? It failed in Afghanistan, failed in Vietnam, failed in Iraq, failed in Korea, versus China saying, you just do what's good for you, and if what you do is also good for us, we're going to make good bedfellows, right?
Shocking coincidences you don't know about.
In 1980s, a family owned a ceramic factory in California called Oscar Ceramics. But in 1987, the factory was shut down when it was revealed to be an illegal crematorium. This only happened when a passerby, who happened to be a Holocaust survivor, recognized the smell of burning bodies from his time at Auschwitz. In 1954, Ann Hodges was hit with a softball-sized meteorite while taking a nap in her Alabama home. She remains the only known human to ever be hit by a meteorite. Jeremy Moody was a guest set in a party for lifeguards, who were celebrating going an entire season without anyone drowning. But at the end of the party, with over 100 lifeguards present, Jeremy's body was found at the bottom of the pool. In 1996, a man's body floated up to a boat in the seas of the UK. There was no identification on the body except for a 25-year-old Rolex Oyster on his wrist. Thanks to Rolex maintaining such meticulous service records, they were able to identify the man and ultimately his killer.
I was a billionaire's family nanny for 13 years. Here are the different ways rich people raise their kids. Once a year, they send their kids on a solo trip with just a backpack and $100, challenging them to survive a week and document their journey. They made them spend hours on language apps like Duolingo, ensuring they could speak the languages of the countries they visited. Their 12-year-old already speaks fluent French and Italian. Every day, they made them use websites like Khan Academy to master advanced topics like calculus and statistics. Their 9-year-old daughter is already solving derivative problems. They require their kids to plan and execute a charity event every year, raising at least $10,000 for a cause they're passionate about. One time, their oldest son raised $100,000 for a water program he really cared about. They also had all their kids use an app called Bloom to learn investing and money management. They chose it because it pays their kids to learn. Their 14-year-old son is now making $1,000 a month just by completing lessons and investing his earnings.
Here, you think selling your soul is a blood sacrifice? You kill a family member, all that extra stuff. You do seances, I don't know. And not to say that those things don't happen, but I want to let you know it's a lot simple. It's more simple than that. The Holy Spirit revealed to me in that moment that when I was using the gifts that God gave me to glorify promiscuity, when I was using the gifts that God gave me to glorify violence and drugs, what kingdom you think I was working for?
The demonic kingdom, obviously.
The world want to let you think it's a middle ground. You're
Evil
either using your
kingdom.
gifts to glorify the things of this world, you're promoting Satan's kingdom, or you're using your gifts to glorify God and promoting the kingdom of light. There's no middle ground. Okay? The Bible asks us a question, it poses a question, it says, what good does a man to gain the whole world and lose his soul? We know that this life is temporary. That is not a secret. We all in here probably got 100 years at best. We know at some point we're going to pass through this life. But eternal life is eternal, and the things we do on this earth does matter where we spend eternity. So I want to encourage all of you guys here. I don't care if you sing, you rap, I don't care if you work at McDonald's, I don't care what you do. You can find a way to use it to glorify God. He's been way too good to you to play both.
Did you know that the price of a slave in the 1800s was equivalent to the price of a brand new car today? The African slave trade was one of the most brutal
But the car
and
prices vary,
dehumanizing
so
practices in human history. For over 4 centuries, millions of Africans were forcibly taken from their homes and transported across the Atlantic Ocean to be sold as property in the Americas. I mean, can you imagine selling a human being like they're just a piece of furniture? It's like going to IKEA and picking up a new couch, but instead you're buying a person. It's ridiculous. However, the fight for abolition was a pivotal moment in history.
One thing which, it's very confusing is when they are talking about slave trade, they only attribute it to Africans. But slave trade has been all over. Like when you go to the Roman Empire, like the French people, like everybody, one way or the other, has been a slave before. Even the Chinese were slaves to Japanese. But then I don't know why every time when they are trying to, associate slavery with Africans, this is crazy. Right, this is crazy. Even the Israelites were slaves to the Egyptians, but then every time when they are talking about slavery, they always attribute it to black people, and this is so crazy. Something must be done about this.
As people from all backgrounds united to end this inhumane practice. As we look back on this dark chapter in history, let's use it as a reminder of the power of collective action in the face of injustice. Let's continue to stand up against.
And one thing that I've also realized is, I think it's only Africans who still dwell on the past as being slaves. Okay, the Israelite also does the same. But yeah, I mean, one way or the other, a lot of people have been slaves. Like, a lot of people have been slaves. Like, the Europeans, some of them have been slaves. Even how do you call it? The Indians, right? From America, they've been slaves. But then still, Africans are still talking and thinking about being slaves, and I don't know if it was so cruel for Africans back then to be slaves more than the other races, but then I don't know. Let's continue.
All forms of modern-day slavery and oppression.
There is no job worth $2 million a year. That's why they pay athletes these fantastic salaries. I was listening to the radio the other day. They just contracted to pay one player on one team $6 million a year.
And why is that?
It's the Roman circus. What does the emperor do when the people become restive, and when the people are asking questions, and when the people don't like the policies of the emperor? He sends them to the circus. He creates a circus. He builds a giant coliseum. And he begins to throw the Christians to the lions. And he has great chariot races and football games and basketball games, all to keep the idiots preoccupied with things that don't mean anything in the scheme of the entire world. So that they
sounds
don't
so
have
true.
time to learn what the truth is. So they don't ever get smart enough to learn how they're being manipulated. So they don't ever question the emperor.
Chinese just came out last month, one of the top geneticists in China, who now stated that their first ancestor in China was an African, and every Chinese carries the DNA. The East Indians have already done this. Mexicans have done it. So you mean to tell me the people in the diaspora who look the most like the African American, you have nothing to do with Africa genetically? It's ridiculous. But we have to look at the mentality behind that.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to be on a losing team.
True.
And until African people start winning globally, nobody wants to be
Yeah,
a part of
right.
us.
True.
This is why you have Spanish-speaking Africans in the Caribbean who will call
Latino.
themselves Latino or Hispanic. They're Africans, but who wants to be part of a losing team? It's just like when you go throughout Africa, it's not, I still run across Africans who will tell you, I'm French, I'm British, you understand? Because nobody wants to be part of a losing team.
Yeah.
But the minute African people get our situation back in order, everybody who don't want to be black will proudly
That's true, right there.
to the race. We have to give them something
That's very
to
true.
be proud of. The Honorable Marcus Garvey said, the white man has made being black a curse.
Yeah.
I'm going to make being black a blessing. He said we have to sell being African back to the African.
This is Who Rules the World.
Oh, did you see that eye? Italian. I think that would be a copyright strike, because this song sounds like something that would be copyrighted. Oh, did you see that?
Like the Rothschild family, they own all the bank systems. The Rockefeller family, they designed the school curriculum. They designed it to create a bunch of worker bees who never pay attention to what's actually happening. The Rothschild and the Rockefeller family are super correlated. Greta Thunberg, that climate change chick, her great-grandpa's a Rothschild, and Bill Gates is directly related to the Rockefeller family. Like, how is it the same people that are all related that are running things?
You know that meme where it shows a president before and after they got elected? And in the after picture, it looks like they literally aged 10 years. Almost as if somebody yanked them into a room and told them all of the world's secrets. Well, it's rumored that this is because of the 4-hour tape. And listen guys, you gotta stick around for this one because this is a wild story.
I prepared. Then again, this is for entertainment purposes only.
Aaron was one of these low-level employees. He always kept quiet and he just tried to fly under the radar. It was nighttime at the office and there was something he really wanted to get done before the weekend. So he was working later than usual. He was almost ready to pack up and head home when he printed a document on what he thought was the printer in his immediate vicinity. The notification on his computer showed that the document was being printed, but he didn't hear any noise or paper coming from the printer. That's when he checked the name of the device he selected. He noticed it was being printed at another printer on a completely different floor. Now, normally a person would have just forgotten about that and reprinted the document on the right printer, but there's a really strict rule on making sure that all confidential documents are accounted for. He got up, went to the elevator, and rode to the 7th floor. As the elevator doors opened, he noticed that the entire floor was dark. He spotted the printer across the room and started making his way towards it. But before he got to the printer, he noticed a glow coming from one of the meeting rooms down the hall. Being the nice guy he is, he figured he'd go down and turn the light off and save the office a little bit of money. As he stepped into the room and reached for the light switch, he was startled to see a group of about 10 men all huddled around a snack table. And there were rows of the fanciest folding chairs he'd probably ever seen. At the front of the room sat an old TV on a cart. "Mr. Knightley, we've been waiting for you for over 15 minutes. Get the hell in here." Aaron began to stutter as he tried to tell him that you got the wrong guy. But he was immediately cut off. "I don't care why you're late, just get in here, grab a plate of snacks, and sit down. We're starting soon. Put your phone, your watch, and anything else that can record audio or video into the bag." Something about his sternness and tone short-circuited Aaron's brain. For guys like him, there's a third option beyond fight or flight. It's called just go with it until it's over. He dropped his phone and his watch into the bag, and the gentleman made his way to the front of the room, where he stood next to just a serious-looking man. There was also a Secret Service-looking guy standing in the corner. One of the men pulled out a VHS tape from his bag, and he put it in the TV and pressed play. Aaron's mind was racing as he began recalling all of the rumors that he's heard in the past. The beginning was familiar enough to him. Various disclaimers about this being incredibly confidential material. It showed insignias of relevant organizations and just all of that stuff he's seen a million times. But then, something caught his eye. The next insignia that popped up on the screen looked kind of strange to him. He couldn't exactly tell what it was, but something was definitely off. It had the same eagle that he was used to, but this time there was a navy blue hand on the left shoulder of the eagle. Did they update the logo? Before he had time to think about it, they cut to another logo. And this one, he most definitely has never seen before. Committee for the Protection and Preservation of Human Consciousness. The logo was an image of the planet Earth nestled inside of a seal type design. Then it cut to a room that looked similar to the Congress floor, but there were some strange differences. The seats were farther apart and the whole entire room seemed to be on a really steep incline, not what he's used to on the regular Congress floor. As the camera panned around the room, it looked like there were about 50 people gathered around. The recording seemed to be really old since it was recorded in black and white, almost like it was a video shot in like the 40s or 50s. The tape lingered on this one shot for quite a while. Then it panned over to the corner, where there was a choir huddled together, talking amongst themselves. After a few more minutes, the tape abruptly cut to an awkward angle video of the man speaking at the podium. It was too zoomed in on the lower half of his face, so you couldn't really see his eyes or his hair or anything like that. Aaron could tell whoever recorded this definitely wasn't a professional. The man at the podium began to speak. Members of the Committee for the Protection and Preservation of Human Consciousness, I thank you all for coming tonight. We are lucky to be in the good graces of our visitors today. Without rehashing our painful history, we can all acknowledge that the journey it took to get to this very moment in time has been a very difficult and very strenuous task. I am pleased to say that humanity, faced with a dire ultimatum, has come to a majority decision. To our esteemed guests from across the solar system, we are thankful for the opportunity you have given us to negotiate with you today. Aaron's heart beat out of his chest as adrenaline began surging through his body. He couldn't believe that they had actually made contact with extraterrestrial life. The man at the podium continued speaking. Before I outline the decisions taken by humanity, I want to, from the bottom of my heart, thank the brilliant representatives from all the nations all over the world who came together to ensure that this decision was taken with the utmost responsibility, care, and appreciation for our human species. I am aware that this was not a unanimous decision. What did that mean? Aaron sunk down into his chair as he felt a nauseous feeling starting in his stomach. The tape returned to a now corrected angle of the speaker at the podium. His eyes were now visible and they looked strained, almost as if he hadn't slept for weeks. And when his eyes looked at the camera, you could see the sadness in his eyes, like he'd seen multiple versions of hell. To the nations who still disagree, he continued, I thank you nonetheless for accepting the majority decision that we have made today. May this moment, which will be held in secrecy throughout the rest of time, be appreciated as a critical milestone for human civilization. Tonight is not a victory. It is a somber moment that we share. However, we are faced with two options: extinction or accepting the agreement. We made our choice, and I believe time will show that this was the right decision. I hereby announce that we accept the agreement provided by our special guests. This intergalactic species will allow humanity on planet Earth to continue to populate, grow, and innovate. In return, all governments of the world will honor the promise. Aaron was on the edge of his seat. He needed to spit it out. What was this agreement? At this point, the video showed the man at the podium, and for the first time, he looked nervous, scared even. We honor the agreement that these beings hold the right to visit the planet Earth on a reoccurring basis. They will be allowed to consume the majority of the human population inhabiting Earth in order to get the nourishment they desperately seek. After every visit, the remaining humans will be expected to breed in time for the next visit. We acknowledge that we will maintain a parallel history which will be shared with our world's population to ensure that humanity stays motivated to continue existing and evolving as a species. This parallel history may suggest that mass extinction events are a result of free will and sin among men, and they must never know that this is in fact our inevitable and unavoidable doom, put upon us by external forces. For the first time, Aaron's fight or flight response was actually flight. He wanted to escape so badly, to just run away and never look back, but he didn't know what he'd even be running from. The last visit was in the year 1346. And it lasted 7 years. We will continue to honor our parallel history about this event. The next visit, which will not be met with resistance, will be in the year 2028, and it will run for one full calendar year, marking a 675-year gap between the last significant visit and the next one. The visiting cadence is expected to speed up over time as the remaining humans continue to improve their technology and reproduce in a speedy and more productive manner. Aaron's eyes began to water. He so badly wanted to look away, but he couldn't. The tape then cut away to a larger view of the room. The committee members looked somber and broken, still contemplating whether they made the right choice or not. And the members of the choir all stood frozen in the corner. Their faces looked white and their expressions showed pure horror. The camera then panned over to a row of empty seats. Aaron was confused. What were they recording? Then he noticed the seats themselves looked kind of blurry. The man at the podium carried on with his speech, as the cameras kept its focus on the blurry seats. We should acknowledge the privilege of knowing that there is indeed life in the cosmos, that extraterrestrial life has chosen to visit our planet, and that the cycle and balance provided by nature extends far beyond the confines of planet Earth. Much like humanity has found its place on Earth in the food chain, we acknowledge our place in the divine order of things, and we should be honored to have an encounter with beings of such great power, understanding, cognitive function, and evolutionary progression. Aaron's thoughts began to race. I shouldn't have stayed late. I should have made my identity clear from the beginning. I knew that I wasn't supposed to see this. I just knew it. The speaker then began to stutter. It almost appeared as if he was going to cry. While the process of consumption is a painful and lengthy one, we respect the trade-off that comes with our preservation of our species. Our species should be honored and proud to be the only species in all of the cosmos that possess the great power that our visiting species seeks. We are blessed.
In 2006, a leaked document revealed that in a nondescript system behind this random yellow door labeled 641A, the NSA had set up this harmless-looking box that tapped into the fiber optic cables that traversed the Pacific Ocean into Asia. The phone company AT&T had agreed to let them siphon off the traffic that was moving through their cables.
This is the greatest hemorrhaging of legitimate American secrets in the history of the Republic.
And that is what we have been looking through. I mean, there's a lot more documents, but we sifted through and found the documents that show us that it wasn't just one cable in San Francisco being tapped. Yahoo, Google, Facebook, Paltalk? What the hell is Paltalk? Who knows, but the NSA was tapping their cables.
This is going to be really hard for me to talk about, so bear with me. It's finna get dark in here. We are going to talk about the dark history on why jails were created. In 1863, African American slaves were freed. They thought things were great, but they really just got backstabbed. Now, as you know, in 1861 and 1865, the American Civil War happened. During the Civil War, roughly 179,000 black men fought in the Civil War. They fought in the war because they thought America would look out for them, which ultimately made them worried because now how do we keep these people in control? The government needed a way to create peace, to keep the white people happy, but also take care of the African American citizens that just got freed. Before the 1890s, where they started the Prison Act, jails and prisons tend to look like houses. Some like this. After the American Civil War, the number of U.S. penitentiaries in the South and West spiked. So who y'all finna put in there? After this, a lot of African Americans were locked up. Their inmates population surpassed 30,000. By 1880s, African Americans became the major inmates. They were backstabbed. You're telling me that they helped fight the war and then they were falsely imprisoned to do more labor? Convicts who were originally slaves dug levees, laid railroad tracks, picked cotton and mined coals for private companies and planters. Mostly false imprisonment or doing more time than they deserved. Innocent man locked up for 37 years. 1944, George Steeny, 14-year-old, electrocuted and he was innocent. We're still living in this dark history, and Joe Biden played a part in it. Your president signed a crime bill what was one of the key contributions to mass incarcerations in 1990s, especially hurting blacks and brown Americans. African Americans, they were never really freed. It just was switched. Black people were never given equality. Let's just clear that up. African Americans have been fighting for decades for equality from the government. Everybody be safe out there.
You know, if you walk around with that chain all day, people are going to be asking you, what's the science? What's today's mathematics?
Yeah. By the way, this isn't even my chain. I stole it from somebody. Yeah, I'll tell y'all who got off camera.
Uh-oh.
Stealing chains now? You a world star?
Not really stealing.
Does it mean anything to you, though?
Yeah, a little bit.
I'm with you. I don't like the conversation either. It's like, I call myself the God because I feel like it sometimes. I study a little lessons, but I'm not into all, you know.
Yeah. Religion is like a personal computer, you know, you let people in if you want to.
You know that there's a really interesting phenomenon on the internet often referred to as a broke boyfriend hug. And the boyfriend hug often refers to a man who hugs his girlfriend or wife from behind whenever she buys him something. And there's a really interesting reason why it happened and also why it went viral back in 2022. And for many people, this hug usually signifies a relationship where the woman usually pays for everything. And it usually happens around the cash register where money has to be used. And the psychological theory behind the broke boyfriend hug is that it's a type of maid guarding that these men have to use. And this means that it's a type of act to prevent prevent other men from stealing your girlfriend or wife. And this usually stems from a sense of insecurity, since these men usually know that their women can do much better without them. And other types of maid guarding include controlling behaviors as well as extreme jealousy. And the reason why these men hug their women from behind is to show everybody that these two are in a relationship, and that way the chance of someone else trying to steal them is much lower. And many believe that the insecurity in this case has to do with a lack of economic resources. And maid guarding in this case is simply a behavior in order to compensate for that. And it's basically a tool to deny any sort of rival males from any opportunities. However, many women over time will often resist maid guarding, especially if they believe that the relationship is unequal.
Cyber survival skills, part 1. 99% of people don't know that you don't actually need a mobile phone to make phone calls. Let me introduce you to the SIM 800C, and this special module allows you to make phone calls, send texts without a mobile phone. So once you've inserted your SIM card into the device, you're now going to insert the device into your laptop or computer of choice and wait for a red flashing light to let you know that it's ready to receive commands. Finally, you'll need to open a terminal emulator to connect with the module. I'm using PuTTY for this demonstration as it acts as a bridge between your computer and the SIM card. Using AT commands, which I'll put on the screen right now, you can send calls and texts to any phone of your choice. Enjoy.
Did you catch the Dior bag?
Yeah, I've had this all over.
It's the blueprint for creators. This trend blew up because it nailed 3 TikTok essentials. Number 1, mystery. Bethany Frankel used Dior bags as a cryptic code, and the curiosity hooked her viewers instantly. Number 2 is timing. She launched her video at the perfect moment when conspiracies were trending. Number 3 is engagement. Her followers couldn't stop sharing her theories or her videos, which fueled the algorithm to push her out even more. So here's what you can learn from this. Spot trends early. Check your Discover tab to see what's rising. Number 2 is add intrigue. Find a way to make your audience curious and invested. Number 3 is adapt to the trend. Connect it to your niche and give it your own spin. One thing's for sure, this trend,
I think that's a good information.
TikTok likes creators who start conversations. And just like Bethany, you don't need to create the trends. You can add to them by adding your own unique voice and creativity. I help creators grow the right way, and trends like this show us you can win on TikTok by acting fast and strategic. Don't just scroll. Start building your audience the right way today. I'm curious, what's your takeaway from the Dior bag drama on TikTok right now? Let me know in the comments.
This is what they got locked away in the Forbidden Secret Archives. Something that took 12 world-renowned scientists to successfully record back in the 1950s, who are said to have been part of a classified project that created a device that can look into our past, which all came out in a book called The New Mystery of the Vatican, written in 2002 by Francois Brune, a priest who worked very closely with the Vatican, who was told by his colleague, Father Pellegrino Ernetti, a priest, monk, and exorcist, who was also a scientist, engineer, and lifelong scholar. Quite the decorated man, and a well-educated guy too, like he definitely wasn't a crackpot or anything. While the two were discussing interpretations of the Bible in the 60s, Ernetti claimed that he had seen exactly what happened in the book with his own eyes. Just a decade earlier, he was working on a project deciphering old Gregorian chants from tape recordings, when he seemingly heard the voice of the head priest's deceased father talking through the recorder. Like they tapped into a conversation he had decades ago when he was still alive. Captivated by the idea of capturing sounds from the past, Ernetti got together a group of scientists to work on a new project commissioned by the head priest, among whom was rumored to be Enrico Fermi, the father of the Fermi paradox and the creator of the world's first nuclear reactor, and Werner von Braun, a German aerospace engineer poached by the US who ended up as a key director during the foundation of NASA. Once again, quite well-educated individuals. Together, they worked on a machine called the chronovisor, capable of harnessing electromagnetic sound and light waves emitted from the past, and convert those signals into pictures and audio on a cathode ray monitor that allowed us to view the past on a TV screen. According to this work, light and sound continue to exist as residual energy long after the events that produce those lights and sounds have happened. And if we can somehow capture those waves and rearrange them in the sequence that they happened in, we can literally watch the past. Sounds impossible, right? Well, you actually kind of have your own version of a chronovisor at home that you use every single day.
Tell me more.
When you look into the mirror, you're not actually seeing yourself as you are, but as you were fractions of a millisecond ago, due to the time it takes for the light to bounce off the mirror and into your eyes. When you look at the night sky, it's the same thing. The amount of time it takes for the light emitted by the stars to reach us on Earth means we're looking at them as they were hundreds of thousands, millions of years ago. We are seeing into the past. The chronovisor took this idea, but instead of distance, applied it to the fourth dimensional plane, observing light and sound emitted from a specific place and time. It used a series of special antennas to capture these waves and convert them to audio and video on a screen. A device that can view events from anywhere and any time in history on a TV monitor just by setting a date and location. Not exactly a time machine, but a time viewer. A project that Ernetti had been a part of since 1952. And he himself insisted to Francois Brune that he saw events like speeches by Napoleon and Mussolini, views of ancient Rome, even listened to famous unfinished plays by ancient Roman poets, only fragments of which existed at the time, and Ernetti wrote them out in full, which still exist today. But as religious scholars, what they were really interested in were biblical events like the final days of Jesus, the creation of the Ten Commandments and such. In the book, Ernetti is quoted as saying, "We saw everything, the agony in the garden, the betrayal of Judas, the trial, the crucifixion." But he knew people wouldn't believe him if he just told them about it, so he took pics. In the book, Brune shows the actual photos of Jesus' crucifixion and other historic events that Ernetti snuck photos of from the chronovisor. This one allegedly of Jesus getting crucified, and another one of him talking to his followers, which might actually just be low-resolution photos of this statue and that painting, questioning the legitimacy of these photos, but Brune insists the machine was real. One that could view any place from any point in time, including what you were doing in your room last night, all documented in Francois Brune's book, which even includes schematics of the device itself. Ernetti and his team presented the device to Pope Pius XII in the 50s, who immediately confiscated and dismantled it out of fear of getting into the wrong hands. Clearly being able to spy on anyone who said anything at any time could be catastrophic. In 1972, an article even wrote about this device in an Italian magazine called La Domenica del Corriere, which for the record was a real magazine and not a satire paper, with the headline, "A machine that photographs the past has finally been invented," leading some to believe that the chronovisor wasn't destroyed, but was still being used by the church to control the masses. Stashed away deep in the Vatican archives, which not only do you need very special permission to access, but is also protected by armed guards and state-of-the-art security 24/7. Clearly all they have is a bunch of old writings down there, right? Then in 1988, the Vatican strangely passed a decree saying that anyone caught using such a device like the chronovisor would be excommunicated. Kind of a weird thing to say about a machine that was totally fake and just a rumor. Up until Ernetti passed away in 1994, he swore the chronovisor was real. Same with Brune, who along with his books about it also heavily wrote about quantum physics, which could potentially provide further explanations for such technology, until he passed more recently in 2019. Two highly respected, religious, and well-educated men that both insisted on the existence of a device that can peek into time, and that it actually hasn't been decommissioned, but rather hidden from the public and is still in use to this day.
So they are not aliens?
No. What we call aliens are simply the civilizations living beyond the ice wall of Antarctica. It's not some distant galaxy or a sci-fi fantasy, it's Earth. Right here, hidden in plain sight, but beyond what we're allowed to see. These advanced civilizations have technology so beyond our understanding that when their ships soar through the skies, we mistake them for extraterrestrial crafts. But they're not from space, they're from regions on this planet we've been kept from exploring. Why the lie? The oligarchs, the ones pulling the strings, want to keep us in fear of the unknown. Aliens, outer space, it's all a smokescreen. They don't want us asking questions about what's really out there. These civilizations are light years ahead of us in tech and knowledge. That's why the narrative is controlled. They don't want you to even imagine the idea that there's more to Earth than you've been told. But trust me, it's not aliens coming for us. It's advanced beings from right here, beyond the icy borders we're forbidden to cross.
This is just a theory, not a fact.
There's a U.S. Marine that's going on trial against Congress, talking about how he's seen UFOs abducting humans, but the UFOs weren't aliens, they were humans abducting other humans.
What?
Yo.
In the actual
bro,
going on?
it was a named Michael Hara, and it was in 2009. Like, he had to go do like an Overwatch mission in Indonesia because it was a natural disaster, like a hurricane. So he was over there just making sure the land was good.
Yeah.
And then I guess he was in the jungle, and he seen like a UFO like hovering over in the jungle, picking up people. And then he seen like U.S. trucks. Like, he wasn't supposed to be over there. Like, he just wandered off. And then he said like a week or two later, like some unnamed government officials came in. Like, he said these people did not have no name tags, and they was like, yo, you cannot speak about this to your general, can't speak about this to your family, can't speak about this to your platoon, your group. If so, you can get put in prison or they will execute you.
They take you there. They took him there. They let him see the fights. At first he thought it was cool, you know. It was like eyes wide shut. They screwing in front of you. They doing bizarre things, man. Bestiality. You're going, damn, right? But the part that tripped him out, how they showed him. They literally showed him how they clone people. They take the real person and put them off to the left and make two more of you. It blew his mind. Just like they did the dogs, the fish, all of that. He's like, wait, I'm tripping. That ain't a real person. Then they start, they stab the person to make you see they bleed. They're real. And they can feel that pain. You understand? So his mind is blown. Now, he done been a couple of times, and the only time they would be willing to
It's Benny Him, right?
Y'all can't tell me that some of these celebrities aren't living forever.
No, Benny Him.
I'm not saying people can't look alike, but when
Benny
you
Mac,
take a now
rather.
famous person and compare it to paintings of famous people in the past, and they look exactly alike with the same medical conditions, it really raises an eyebrow. And it's just crazy how some of these old paintings or posters just capture a certain essence of a person's personality. You could guess who that was if you didn't even compare it. You don't see it though? An old king of Spain and Mark Zuckerberg? Okay. Damn, Justin, you should grow that beard out again. This is one I know a lot of people have seen. Tell me it don't look like him though. Doppelganger, clone, vampire, I don't know. All I know... Oh, that explains a lot. Maybe there's a drug that helps them not age. Though sometimes I can see it being a stretch. It's just times like this where they look too much alike. I mean, he's just a bit fluffier. And maybe they swap genders. I don't have all the answers, guys. And the list goes on. Maybe they're of the same bloodline. Maybe they've been drinking blood. Maybe they're I know it is
This is
we all
creepy.
have 7 people who look like us. Yeah, I've heard it before.
Nigerian gospel artist and pastor Nathaniel Bassey has been invited to lead worship at the presidential inaugural prayer breakfast for U.S. President-elect Donald Trump, scheduled for January 2025
This is so
in
interesting.
Washington, D.C.
Go Niger.
Nathaniel Bassey, who hails from Akwa Ibom State, shared this news on his Instagram page, posting a promotional banner of the event and captioning it, "Let's raise a sound in America." The U.S. presidential inaugural prayer breakfast is a non-partisan faith-based event held every 4 years before the official swearing in of a new administration. Its primary focus is to provide spiritual support for the incoming government through prayers and worship. Pastor Nathaniel Bassey, famed for his soul-stirring worship songs and as the initiator of the globally acclaimed Hallelujah Challenge, is celebrated for popular hits like Imela, Onishe Iyanu and Olowo Gbogboro, earning him international acclaim as one of Nigeria's leading gospel ministers.
Wow. This was interesting. I enjoyed it. I always enjoy the videos I do. I hope you also do. Right? And also, let me know the videos you want us to do next. And don't forget to like, comment and subscribe, and also share with your friends, and also click on the notification bell icon so that any video that I post, you will be the first to get it. I hope you got an information or two that you would add to your knowledge, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye.